Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
Hello, my friends. This is Kyle from Creating Wealth. Welcome to your next Wednesday episode. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about a conversation that I had probably a couple months ago at this point that was really impactful. And it's something that I want to talk about with you guys and, kind of hear your thoughts on it. So essentially, this is definitely something that should be a part of everyone's lives. And everyone has a different flavor of what they want this to look like. It's something that, most people, typically might, try to push off until like the end of their investing careers, post-retirement, like that type of thing. And that is basically adventure. So the conversation that I had, which was incredibly impactful, with a good friend of mine, fellow woman. She's and she's absolutely amazing in a lot of different ways. But there was one conversation that her and I had in particular one day, where we were going over our one sheets. So for a little bit of background, when it comes to Gobundance, a couple of the norms that are pretty standard across like the mastermind throughout the different tiers is having a one sheet, which is basically call it like the back of a baseball card that has all of your stats from like your net worth, horizontal income, vertical income, to like your blood pressure, to like bucket list items, like the whole 9 yards. Like it's literally everything about you in like a one pager basically. And essentially, so that's that. And it's something that's typically reviewed quarterly, and you typically review it with your pod, which is like a couple, people that are in the group that are, just working to help each other out and that type of thing. And, just are there for support and to help each other become more successful, And, so essentially, when I was going over my one sheet with Lucy, I think it was at the start of what quarter were we in for? Yeah, I think it was at the start of Q3, I believe. We were going over my one sheet, and I got to my bucket list items. And GoBundance wants you to come up with 100 bucket list items to put on that piece of paper. Now that can be a somewhat of a daunting task, you know what I mean? Because that's quite a lot of items, and yeah. And essentially, like some of the things that I had come up with originally are Lucy basically, kind of made the point more clear to me that they were more like goals and that I needed to think bigger. And I love hearing that, because it's like I love when people tell me I'm thinking too small. And like, no, dude, like open up your mind. You know what I mean? Like the sky is the freaking limit. Like, like go get it. I love it so much, right? And essentially, Lucy was telling me about that. And it really started to get me to think, and she actually took me through an exercise that was absolutely friggin' incredible. And she was telling me that she got it from, I believe it was a Tony Robbins event, if I remember right. And essentially, what she had me do was she set a timer for, it was like a couple minutes. I think it was like 2 minutes, I believe. And she was telling me, she's like, you're gonna get 2 minutes. You have $100 million and money is no object. Write down all of the things that you're doing. So I was like, damn, okay. Oh boy. And so essentially, she started the timer and I started like just ripping down the list, you know what I mean, with a whole bunch of things. Traveling definitely became one that was extremely prevalent for a lot of different reasons, like buying a particular apartment complex in Lowell, like like a whole, I mean, that one I guess could be more of a goal in a sense, but my point being, like think a lot bigger. And yeah, so essentially like I ended up, continuing to make my bucket list like after we got off the call and that type of thing. And I came up with a good amount of them, nowhere close to 100 because it's I want you guys to try that if you're listening to this. Um but basically the reason that I point this out today, guys, is because it's so freaking easy for us to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of the day to day, and days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years. And while you're just head down in the grindstone, doing the things that are required to get where you want to be, time flies by fast, you know? And one of the things that Lucy helped me realize that day is that you need a lack of adventure, like while you're on the quest to, building immense wealth, to building your company, to, building your real estate portfolio, whatever your thing is, whatever your vision, um, whatever your long-term quest is for you and the people around you. Because the more I thought about it, right? And I forget, it might have been Jason Regan. Shout out to you, buddy. It might have been Jason that pointed this out. Because I think he might have heard it somewhere or something. But basically, um, if you really think about it, right? GoBundance wants you to come up with 100 bucket list items. Now, if you figure, you know, most people, this is a huge, huge generalization, but say most people live up until like 90 nowadays, right? So if you figure like there's already 10 years gone if you do one bucket list item a year. And that's if you started from like the day that you were born, right? Which is not going to be the case for most of us. But so if you figure, right, if you drop that down, say you started doing working on a bucket list at like 20, right? So that's 80 years to do 100 bucket list items. Now, even then, like something like that, might be ridiculously difficult because essentially what it boils down to is, um, one, I mean, making this huge list, but also squeezing in, one or, between 2 to 3 of these bucket list items a year. If you started a bit later in the game, you know, and it's something that really makes you think because like if you this is literally like your bucket list, like what people talk about, when just like using the common language, like, oh yeah, like I'd love to go to California and see the coast on that's gonna be a bucket list item. But how many people do you know that actually write down their freaking bucket lists that aren't a part of the GoBundance mastermind, you know? So it's something that just became clear, right? And the other side of this coin, not to, kind of take things into a more um like I guess kind of like depressing tone, but so say, you kind of go with the flow, you build up like this huge empire, right? And say you retire at like 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever, you know what I mean? Um and you haven't done a single bucket list item yet. One, it's going to be probably ridiculously difficult to be able to bang out quite a few of these bucket list items in such a short amount of time. And the other piece of perspective here is what if, God forbid, something were to happen and you got a diagnosis that you totally didn't expect? And now it's like, shit, like, now what? Like, you spent your whole entire life building up, this immense empire of whatever that looks like. You've changed a lot of different lives, made a lot of really cool relationships and a lot of cool experiences with a lot of cool people. And now, now's your time that you wanted to, maybe kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and start to, travel to some of those countries that, you've only seen on YouTube and in, history books and stuff like that. And now you can't. that's a little heavy. You know what I mean? And not like I said, not to bring things more into a depressing kind of tone, because it's not where I was going with this. But my point was that I was wanting to go to take this was basically like while we're in our travels, make sure that you squeeze in, some of those adventures, some of those vacations once in a while, going to Italy, going to freaking New Hampshire and skiing, like, you know, whatever your thing is, traveling to different states, going to conferences across the country, like whatever works, taking the family, taking an RV across the country with, your significant other and the dogs, you know what I mean? Like, make sure you squeeze in some of that stuff, because it's the journey that we're on, guys. If you're listening to this show, whether you're a real estate investor, a passive investor, a entrepreneur of any way, shape, or form, even a have a kick-ass W2 job as well. Like, this is something that affects all of us because time flies by so friggin' fast, and you never know. You know what I mean? So that's something that I would recommend, guys, is do try out that exercise that Lucy took me through of basically take, like, find another person, set a timer for 2 minutes and write down, say you have $100 million and money is no object, right? Like, what are the things that you're doing today? Um, and do it with a couple people and see what you guys come up with. And do what you can, to stick in some of those bucket list items. Um, one a year or a couple a year. And a couple of the ones that I came up with, I'll be able to share now, I guess. But since I did that exercise, the first one was getting a tattoo, and I have a couple different ideas for that. I haven't done it yet, but it will be happening very shortly. Um, I have a couple different ideas, but like that was one. I'm like, oh, that would be a cool way to kind of start off the bucket list. I have some really big ones that came to mind. Like, and this is the other thing, guys, is like, this is your friggin' bucket list. Like, whatever comes to your mind that you want to do, freaking go get them, go crush it, and like, just write it on there. Like, what the hell? Like, a couple of the ones that I came up with, I had a couple of my buddies laughing at me. Was the tattoo was kind of the lowest barrier to entry one today. That one's gonna happen very shortly. There's and a couple more that are a bit more ambitious, like seeing the Tianzi Mountains in China. If you guys haven't heard of those, Google it. It's Tianzi and then mountains in China. Couldn't tell you where the hell it is in China. But basically, if you've seen the movie The Avatar, like James Cameron, or the second one, or or those, they were in that movie as, some of the like giant mountains, and there's like, fog, and like it looks like they're like, giant floating rocks in the middle of the sky. Like craziest thing in the entire world, right? And that's like a real place on planet Earth, you know? So I don't know. I thought that was a really, really ambitious one. Another one that I have is to ride a camel, like somewhere in the Middle East, like Indiana Jones did, and a couple of the movies. And I don't know if it was the Temple of, no, I don't think it was the Temple of Doom, but anyway, I don't know, like something about that just sounds kick-ass. Like I said, guys, this is your freaking bucket list. You know what I mean? Like, how you think it wouldn't be kick-ass to, like, take your spouse to, like, some other country with like some really like crazy attraction going on, whether it's like a ridiculously cool like landscape environment, like one of my buddies that I had on the podcast in like year one went to South Africa, and he was telling me that or he was saying on the show actually that the I asked him what his favorite country was, because he took like this crazy RTW plane ticket, like traveled around the world and that type of thing. And he was telling me that seeing the sunrise in South Africa was one of the coolest things that he's ever laid eyes on, because it's literally like straight out of the Lion King, you know? And yeah, gotta have some adventure in our lives, guys, because life's too short. You gotta, sprinkle in some of those, crazy adventures while we're building up our empires, shaking hands, kissing babies, like the whole 9 yards, and have some fun. It's, you never know, when something like that, you might not be able to do something like that, you gotta sprinkle it in while you can. But alrighty, my friends, that is all for today. Please leave a rating and a review on the podcast. Share this lesson with absolutely anybody. This one hit me like a sack of trucks. I don't know why I was going to say bricks, but trucks came out. Trucks are probably heavier than bricks, but maybe not, depending on the trucks, I guess. But anyway, yeah, this lesson hit me extremely hard. And yeah, feel free to share it with your friends. Send me an email at kyle@creatingwealth.com with your bucket list adventures. I'd love to hear them. You know what I mean? And I think it'd be cool to kind of give each other some ideas as well, because that list is pretty big. It's hard to fill that thing. But alrighty, my friends. The other thing too is that this is an area that we at Creating Wealth may be able to help certain folks out with. Because, as many of you guys know, like, we're in the investment, syndication, multifamily world. And, that's one of those kind of areas where you can be traveling the world, have some shares in a syndication, getting quarterly distributions or whatever the structure looks like. And, you can be out having your adventures, and we can be paying for your trip that way, But yeah, if you guys want to hear more, how we can work together and that type of thing, again, shoot me an email. That's kyle@creatingwealth.com. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.